I grew up most of my life being the victim. When it's not your fault, you have no power to change it. One thing that I've learned that has changed my life is that you are in control of everything.
From a childhood of trauma and poverty, Shad Stoker is here to say, your fate is in your hands.
When you decide to take responsibility and accountability for where you are in every situation, you now have power to change and fix and improve and be whatever the hell you want to be.
Shad became president of the International Detailing Association, and he loves to talk about detailing, so buckle up for some gems about cleaning cars and improving your life.
95% of people never realize that. And if they do realize that, they never take steps to fix or improve it.
Shad Stoker,
Nick McGirt.
welcome to Nick at Night.
Oh man, I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy to be here as well. Here is actually Jamie Gonzalez, our dear friend, Jamie, JNG Auto Reconditioning, and life is good.
Life is so good.
Life is good.
Life is good now.
What is something that folks don't expect about you?
What they don't expect about me, like just in general, or about like first meeting me, or
doesn't like surprise, like more than meets the eye. You know, what is something that you think folks may not know about you that they might be surprised by?
The only thing that comes to me is knowledge. Honestly, from the outside looking in, I look, I don't look like I'm a very intelligent person, and I'm not intelligent. I am not a smart individual, but I am well versed. If something interests me, or if even if I just have to do something. We were just talking about golf, for example. I got golf clubs for Christmas. It's like as soon as I got those, I'm going to golf now. I haven't golfed in years.
He sounds like he's a golf coach. Oh, the last 10% of your ability with the club. I'm like, you've been studying, haven't you, Shad?
I go hard on the knowledge. So if something interests me, or even if it doesn't interest me and I need to know about it, whether it's a work thing or a personal thing or just anything, I am very diligent about educating myself on that subject matter.
I think education and knowledge is so important, but don't you feel like certain things can be like learned in the brain and certain things have to be felt in the heart?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Or experience, maybe?
For sure. I think experience is a good way to put it. Absolutely. I mean, there's only so much you can learn from a book. And that's kind of where I was going with that is I read a lot of books. I've read hundreds. I mean, I've probably read 600 books in my lifetime, in my adult lifetime. So I wasn't a big reader as a kid, but
I was the opposite. I read voraciously as a kid and have like not done it as much. And I know you are.
But I can only read educational books. I can't read like fiction. It has to be like nuts and bolts, knowledge, application, business stuff. I can't read Harry Potter. I just can't. I've never been able to do that. I have to read. It has to be informative and educational. But yes, I think there's no replacement for experience. Going back to books, you can read something 100 times and still not understand it, and you can apply it once and then completely understand it. So I think experience and, hard as you put it, are kind of one of the same. You have to experience some things in order to learn them or understand them better, if you will.
Can you give me an example of something you've experienced that changed your life?
Oh, something that I've experienced that has changed my life.
It could be as simple as like just saying hi today.
That's not...
like I was having a rough day and then I got in the room with you and Jamie and I was like, oh yeah, this is what I was made for, is to be around other humans. Like we're meant to be in community and like be together, and it like instantly I was like fired up just to like be in the same room with you guys because I work alone and I drove all the way down. This is how much we care about Nick at Night. It's not a crazy amount of drive. It was like an hour drive. Come down and meet you in this nice podcast setup. Because I do so many of these Nick at Night podcasts and they're always on Zoom, StreamYard, whatever. And I think magic is lost when you're not in the same room with people. But it's the world we live in. I think we've just forgotten a little bit of that.
And it opens up things up to a lot of experiences you may not have. Like you can't connect with people that are in a different time zone as easy face to face as you can virtually, like you can nowadays with the formats that we have. But going back to your question,
you're gonna answer it. I like that. You're gonna make me repeat it.
No. So
you're not avoiding it.
No, not at all. Okay. Actually, I'm actually surprised. I'm kind of disappointed that it took me so long to even pull this one up. But one thing that I've learned that has changed my life is that you are in control of everything to a certain extent. And what I mean by that is you have control. You basically have control over two things in life, and that is how hard you work and how you react, right? You can't control the things that happen to you, but you can control how you respond and react to them. I grew up most of my life being the victim, right? When something happened, it was, oh, that happened to me. Oh, I'd stub my toe in the morning and my day was shot because I was pissed off and the world was out to get me. And it was, it was going to be a bad day because it started that way. It wasn't until early 30s, mid 30s that I learned that I'm in control of how I respond to that, which then directly impacts the rest of my day, the rest of my life, right? So instead of it being something that happens to me, it's something that happened for me, right? I stubbed my toe, so that way I was a few minutes late, and then it could have avoided a whole bunch of catastrophes. But it's, going back to the victim mentality, self-talk kind of aligns with that. Another thing, I was the victim. I had the victim mentality most of my life because of the way I was brought up. I had a very, very rough childhood. So I learned to be the victim very early on. But with that, with being the victim, you get this kind of inbuilt habit of also making yourself the victim, right? You're not just the victim from outside forces, you're the victim within yourself. You make yourself the victim in the sense of, I forgot to do something and I'm such an idiot, I'm this, I'm that, instead of having control of how you respond and turning it into a positive. I know I've talked to you, I think we've talked about this before, but I use the example of when you forget something. You forget, you leave your house, you forget your phone, you forget your wallet, something. You realize halfway to work that you forgot that thing. And instead of, for me, it used to be, you fucking idiot, you forgot your wallet, your day is shot now. It's going to cost you 20 minutes. It's going to do this. Now your whole day's going to be shot. Instead of looking at the other side of the coin. It didn't cost me 20 minutes. It saved me. I realized now that I forgot that thing instead of at lunch when I went to pay for lunch. It would have been a lot more impactful if I would have not remembered now and waited till I got to pay for my food and had to tell, I don't have my wallet, so that food you just made me, you're going to have to hold on. I got to run back to my house. It's going to cost me an hour and a half instead of 20 minutes. So just changing my perspective on things and not being the victim, but being the victor, oh man, instead of I'm an idiot, man, I'm the hero. I remembered now instead of in 40 more minutes when I was at work.
Yeah, but I'm just struck by how long it took you to realize that. 30 years? 30 plus years? Do you have an issue with your headphones, by the way?
No. The crazy thing is
I'm like, it took me a while to figure a lot of things out too, but 30 years of life.
35 years of life.
Operating in a different way.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say 30 because I didn't learn those behaviors until I had gone through the trauma and the crises and the chaos of my upbringing. I wasn't born with that victim mentality. That was ingrained in me through my environment. That's what I was built into me through my parents and my surroundings and the poor upbringing that I had. So I would say 25, 30 years overall, but it took 10 years to ingrain that into me. But it's taken a lot longer to beat that out of me. But it's because of awareness. It seems like a lot that it took me 30 years to realize that. Dude, 95% of people never realize that. And if they do realize that, they never take steps to fix or improve it. Because it's easy to be the victim. When it's easy to say that I'm not where I want to be because of that person. I'm not where I want to be because of my upbringing, right? Then it's not your responsibility any longer. It's not my fault. But then at the same time, when it's not your fault, you have no power to change it. Okay, if it's that person's, if you're where you are because of that person, then you're going to be where you are until that person decides to let you out of that place. So when you decide to take responsibility and accountability for where you are in every situation, you now have power to change and fix and improve and be whatever the hell you want to be.
And when I hear it from enough people, I start to listen, like Extreme Ownership from, Jocko Willnick. Yeah. And then actually just Jonathan Monson from Dirty to Dreamy came on, and he's like, blame yourself for everything. Why? Because once you do that, you then have something to do. Like you can change yourself, and you can. I don't know how he described it. I'm butchering it. I'm sorry, Jonathan.
Yeah, I hope so, because I don't like blame yourself. But go ahead.
No, it was like basically taking full responsibility for everything that happens in your life, and then it inspires you to take massive action. At least that's the way that I interpreted what he said. Let's check the tape to make sure.
Let's roll that back.
But I also want to just talk about your story because, from being the IDA president, International Detail Association, which you just finished your 1 year of, and you work at Budco, you got the shirt on. Like, what is your role there? I also want to make sure folks know you're in detailing, obviously. But then let's go back to like what got you here, because I think coming from poverty and some of the tough conditions you came from, I think will resonate with a lot of our listeners, because we know detailers. A lot of us come from difficult childhoods and homes, and it's like, we find this beautiful thing with a low barrier of entry that just says, hey, if you're willing to work hard, you got a place here, you know, at the table, which is, there's no table, but you know what I mean? It's
Yeah, for sure.
Detailing has been really good to us in that way. And there's a lot of people who are just out there working their butts off who may be inspired to listen to your story. So wherever you want to take that.
So what was your first question? What was the first part of that question?
What do you do at Budco? What is Budco?
Oh, Budco. So I'm a partner in Budco. Budco is a car wash and detail supply company. It's actually been around for 35 years. I came on as a partner about 10 years ago, and was kind of to kind of reinvigorate the detail side of that business, because they had started as a detail company, and then they kind of got a little more heavy into the car wash side of things, and I kind of took on the responsibility to reinvigorate the detail side, because it's where they started. It's what, you know, the passion of the business was. And that's what I did. So from sales, training, product development, you know, just product R&D in general, finding new products. That's kind of what I oversee in the business. You've
turned Budco into a bit of a detailing kind of jewel in the Salt Lake area. Like if you're looking for detailing products, head on down to Budco, where they don't sell DIY detail, but maybe we'll change that one day. Maybe we'll change that one day. Yeah.
No doubt. You a hard time. Nothing against the products. Products are great, man.
What products do y'all carry at Budco? I mean, just in case, like, people drive from all over, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we get people. We're not huge online, but we still have people from all across the country that order from us.
You're very much a regional, like, because you're into Vegas and Idaho, right? And,
yep.
Or you tell me.
Idaho, Vegas, Wyoming, Colorado. Yeah, I think that's about it. So it's about five, and Utah, of course.
Yeah.
So we are a P&S distributor. We are Rupes, Malco, which Malco is not talked about enough in this industry on the professional side of things. You don't hear about Malco quite enough. That they are an absolute monster. They are one of the biggest brands in the industry, and they are one of the most I don't want to say underrated, but they're one of the most under talked about. They are just an absolute hidden, quite a quiet giant, if you will. Malco, Coach Kemi, Rupes, Rag Company, Auto Fiber.
Was it weird taking on Auto Fiber and Rag Company at the same time?
No, because that's I'm really grateful to have relationships with both of those companies, and I think they are kind of the pillar, or they're the pinnacle of what it should be in this industry, because they are competitors, but they collaborate, right?
Yep.
So the technology that Ian invented and patented at Auto Fiber with the Saver applicator.
I'm going to get him on the podcast just to talk about, because I agree with you. I think he's had so much innovation for sure. Yeah.
But the Rag Company, instead of trying to knock that off or create their own version, they just went to him and said, "Hey man, let us license it." So instead of trying to compete with them, they collaborated. So it was a win-win. They didn't have to go and spend a bunch of money to develop something and do patents and all that. And it also created a relationship between them. So they collaborate on quite a few things. So I love the relationship that they have. And they, in my conversations, never like when I was talking about bringing on Auto Fiber, when I was, expanding with Rag Company, neither one of them was like, "Oh, don't do that." They're like, "Cool. Yeah, I love that product. I love that. They're a great company." So they are, to me, they're the pinnacle of what this industry should be. And a prime example is Ian from Auto Fiber and Josh Petro from Rag Company both sit on the board of directors for the International Detailing Association, and they work well together. They work great.
Let's talk about the IDA, because a lot of people talk trash about it, and that there's a devoted group of people who are just trying to elevate the industry. You said it was a volunteer position. I mean, you've heard it all.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a lot of people who just simply don't care.
Right.
Like they've just turned off their caring switch. They're like, whatever, the IDA. If you had a chance to give your pitch about why the IDA is a vital, important group, or whatever you want to communicate, what would you say to someone out there who's maybe on the fence?
First thing I would say is the IDA I wouldn't say it's for everyone. And that's not that, not everyone deserves the opportunity or anything like that. It's just some people are, they're too locked in, or they're too hard-headed, or they're too set in their ways. The IDA, the way I pitched it for this year was, the IDA is, to me, the ultimate opportunity. It is an opportunity to get not just for people starting out, but people that are looking to refine things, but especially for people that are kind of new in that 1 to 5 year range in their business. It is an opportunity to get all the resources and knowledge and relationships that you need to be successful. But like with any opportunity, you have to do the work. One of my favorite quotes was Thomas Edison said, "Opportunity is often missed because it is dressed in overalls and looks like work." A lot of people join the IDA and they expect that when they get their packet with their membership that there's going to be a bar of gold and a magic bean in there that's going to just solve it. That's not the way it works. It is an opportunity, it is a portal for you to gain the information, to gain the relationships, to have instant credibility with some of the greatest names in the industry that then you can collaborate and ask questions to. I'll tell you, if somebody comes up to me and is like, hey man, I'm a fellow IDA member, let me ask you a question. I listen a little bit more intently, right? And I'm a little bit more open with my information because it's instant credibility in my opinion. Like I know they take this seriously, and not this saying that if you're not in the IDA, you don't take it seriously. But I know that this person takes it at a high, things at a serious level because they made the commitment to become part of the association and are giving back to the industry as well. So I'm a little bit more open with my information. I'm a little bit more intent with my listening. It's just instant credibility. And that's like with the certifications, like I hear a lot of people say, oh, the certifications are just a piece of paper. Absolutely. But that piece of paper can build credibility with your customers instantly, but also it can build credibility in you. When I became IDA certified, that was the moment that I realized, all right, I actually really know what the hell I'm talking about. And not that the tests are super hard to pass, you know what I mean? But it is the kind of the standard in the industry. So that built credibility in me. When I passed that test, because it is to become IDA certified, you have to pass 10 to 15 question tests. So when I passed that, I was like, man, okay, I really do know what I'm doing. Yeah. I really do have the expertise or the knowledge of a true professional, right? So it built credibility in myself to then go out and help my customers at a higher level. Because now I wasn't as reserved when customers came in and were like, hey man, tell me about this. I wasn't like, I think this is the way you're kind of maybe supposed to do it. My knowledge was validated through the certification. I was like, yes, let me tell you the way I do it. In my experience, this is the best way. And I had, it helped my customers because I was coming from a place of confidence. Not, hey, this is the only way, but I was speaking from a knowledge base and a place of confidence. So the messages came through better.
Well, I know the House of Rags, which is, obviously the home of this podcast, sponsoring IDA. Yep. At least they were at the MT.
No, yeah, they're a huge sponsor of the IDA. Absolutely.
Yeah, so shout out to the IDA, shout out to House of Rags. Thanks for sponsoring this podcast. I'm stoked to be here.
Yeah.
What do you think your legacy is from your year as president? Or what do you hope it is? Everyone loves to talk crap on the IDA. It's this, it's that. And then you're the face of it for a year. So we could talk about what's wrong, but I want to know what you have to say about your potential legacy.
First off, I do want to kind of delve into that a little bit.
Let's delve, dude. I got a shovel or a little
In my experience, the people that typically are the loudest or most vocal about the IDA are generally the people that don't know anything about it. I've literally had conversations. I've literally overheard conversations of very influential people in this industry just bagging on the IDA. And then when I sat down and said, continue on, let me hear your, oh, well, this, that, and the other. Everything that they were saying was completely inaccurate. Oh, it needs this. We have that. It needs that. We have that. Oh, they should do this. We do that. They were not informed or educated. Yeah. They were speaking from a place of ignorance, for lack of a better term. And that's typically what I see is people, if you don't know, and here's the thing, if you don't know about something, then don't speak on it. If you don't like it, that's cool. But inform
people
yourself.
Love to speak on things they don't know.
They do, and that usually comes from a place of insecurity. They're talking crap about the IDA because they're not willing to pony up the money to be to become a member or to test their knowledge and get certified. In my experience, but just inform yourself. Like if you're going to have an opinion, have a basis of knowledge to form that opinion, right? So, and most people don't do that. But as far
what is this notebook you got going on?
This is remarkable, man.
You love this. Can you show people this if you're listening on YouTube?
I'm a huge paper and pen guy. I can't do like iPad notes. I can't do. Yeah. This feels like paper, but it's a digital. It's a digital notebook that has everything from every one of my committees that I was on the IDA to I do book reports. So as I active read. So as I read books, I take notes because that's the only way I retain the information. So all my book reports are in here.
And then how many notes do you take for a book? Do you revisit them often? I feel like I journal things and I just never look at it ever again.
I visit it often.
Tell me how to be engaged with my journaling.
I'll tell you the way I do it.
Or
so
how you do it.
I will read a chapter. So or at the end of every chapter, whether it takes me a day or 5 days to read that chapter, I will highlight things as I go, the things that are impactful that stand out to me. And I may make little notes with my highlighter on the page. When I'm done with that chapter,
So you read physically, not audible?
No, I can't do it. Yeah.
Okay.
I do. So if a book is really, really powerful, I will read it and then I will listen to it on Audible to really hammer stuff home.
Oh, I love that.
So, and it just kind of reiterates things. So
Yeah.
with books, I have to read books. If I listen to an audiobook, I have extreme ADHD. If I listen to an audiobook, I get 1 out of every 15 sentences. Because
Totally.
like, hey, I'm terrible. It's always in the background playing, and I'll catch a thing here and there. But I have to read books, so I highlight as I go. At the end of every chapter, I go through and I rewrite those highlighted parts in my own words. I don't write it word for word. I write it in my own. I write it in my own words.
Yeah,
I write it in my own, because that's the way to really retain stuff, is to put it in your own terms.
Yeah.
So that's what I do. That's the only way, or that's the best way that I found that I retain information.
And when do you go back to those notes?
Usually a conversation will spark it, or I'll be given a training or having a conversation. I'm like, yeah, I one time I read this thing. It's like, and then I'll go back. And I usually am able to find it because you can search. So if it's like marketing, marketing tactics
it can read your chicken scratch and and then search for that word again.
It can not only do that, but it can take my chicken scratch and turn it into text and convert it into a PDF file.
This is the remarkable notebook here.
Yeah, it is pretty remarkable. But
the stand looks like it costs as much as the dang.
Oh, dude,
looks
this
like
is
a
Amazon
stand.
special. This is like $10.
Okay, I need to get me a remarkable. I've always seen you with them. And then when do you find time to read?
I read every day without fail. It's so I'm
because you've taken a lot of mastermind classes with a lot of really rich people, and I'm guessing like some of their influence, they say that the billionaires and the business owners, like those are the readers.
Absolutely, yeah.
So like I'm hearing it from you, and I'm like, I wonder where it came from. Did it come from you? Did it come from them? Is it both? Is it just reading is important?
Dude, nothing I say is original. Nothing anyone says is original. Okay, so I read a book called Still Like an Artist, and the whole premise is everything is already been thought of. Everything has already been said. What hasn't been done is it hasn't been said in your way. It hasn't been done in your way. So people get hung up on, oh man, I want to do this and I want to do that, but it's already been done. That's okay. Do it to put your spin on it, right? You see a post that's impactful to you on oh, I can't redo that. I can't redo that before and after on this product. Yeah, you can. Just do it in your own way. Do it in your own terms. So nothing I say is original. I mean, just like nobody else is. It's all, I may have extended upon it or adapted it or created it in my own way, but all the things that I've talked about are things that I've learned through either paying coaches and mentors or attending trainings or reading books. So I read every day. I'm a creature of habit. If you don't have ways to track things, success is very, very challenging to achieve. So every day I have a list of things that I have to get done. They're everything from meditate to visualize, to my cold showers or plunges, to exercise, reading. I have to read at 10 minutes. I have, I put 30 minutes of personal development in every day. But everything is trackable. At the end of the day, if I don't check off every one of those boxes, it's not a win for me. That day, if you put enough, everyone looks at success as that. A lot of people look at success that it has to be this huge leap. You have to go from 0 to 100, and that's just not the way it works. It is small, tiny, little, consistent steps done over and over and over is what leads to massive success. You can't go from 0 to 100 in anything. So you have to go 1 mile at a time, one step at a time. So that's why it's so important to me to do those things. Even if I don't want to read, even if I don't have the full time to implement into reading, I will still read what I can. Because if I don't read today, it's going to be easier for me to not read tomorrow. And then that one day turns into 10 days of me not reading. And then it's so much harder to get back into my habit of reading.
So you're a 10-minute a day. That's what you.
I try to do 10 pages.
Oh, 10 pages.
Yep, I try and do 10 pages a day.
I like that.
Because the average length of the books that I read, the educational business style, marketing books, the average is 300 pages. So if I read 10 pages every day, that is 1 book a month. That's 12 books a year.
Oh, all of a sudden you're making leaps and bounds. In
Right.
This game we call life.
Yep.
Man.
Legacy.
So a voracious reader. Yeah, I do kind of want to know about the legacy. I'm not that interested anymore about the IDA. But you had an answer you wanted to give.
So my legacy. So I went in.
That's why you take the notes, because you wrote it down. You kept us on track.
Because it is a volunteer organization, it's hard to go in with, hey, I have expectations that these are going to change, or we're going to do this, or we're going to do that. So I went in with the mindset that I'm going to put the max effort that I have into this. I'm going to give the most amount of time. I'm going to be as active as I humanly can while still fulfilling all my other needs with business and family and, things like that. And I feel like I did that. And I'll tell you, towards the end of the year, was very disappointed in the year that we had, until I sat back and we just had MTE, and that's kind of where you hand off, the baton to the next guy, and you kind of recap your highlights. And when I actually sat down and recounted all the things that we actually got done, it was an amazing year. And I don't think the impact of what we changed in the last 12 months is really going to be seen for 3 to 5 years. Mm-hmm. And I'm okay with that. I didn't do anything to get the credit. I did it because I love and I believe in this industry and this association, and I want it to thrive going forward. So I don't care if I get the accolades for anything that I did, as long as my efforts make an impact at some point in the future. That's the only thing I care about. That's the mindset that I went in. That was the legacy that I wanted to leave.
I think when you do that, when you give as much as we're possibly able to do as humans, unconditionally, which I think unconditional love and giving unconditionally is pretty much impossible. But like, you come from the best place you can when you do it, and then you give, knowing you may never get credit for or see the results, but you give anyway. And especially when you give and you don't feel like you have that much to give, or you really want something and you're giving it, whether that's your time, or I teach my kids, like, when you share something you really want, it's more impactful. Anyway, I think when you come from that place,
mm-hmm. You give without expectation. Yeah. If you give to get, there's always going to be something lost in translation, or you're always going to be disappointed, because most of the times most of the time that you give with expectation, those expectations are not met, mainly because you do not verbalize that expectation. Hey, Nick, I'm going to give you this $1 because one day I'm going to want $1 back from you. I'm going to need something from you. So I'm going to give you this $1 today. But I don't tell you that, right? Yeah. I say mentally, if I give Nick $1, he needs $1. If I give Nick $1, one day he's going to owe me a favor. But when that day comes, hey, Nick, I gave you $1 one time, and now I'm trapped on the side of the road, and I need help with my flat. Well, dude, I'm in Colorado. I can't help you. My expectation is instantly unmet, and now I'm disappointed. Now it's like, oh, well, I'm never going to give anyone another $1 again. So you kind of poison the well of your giving when you give with expectation. So give without expectation. Only give what you can give without giving back. If my family members call me, oh man, I need this, I need a loan, I don't give them anything unless I can give it to them and know that I'll never give it back. And that's not always how it happens, but I give without any expectation that it's ever going to return.
Is it okay, do you think, to give just knowing that selfishly you're going to feel better, even though that's like the altruistic 100%.
Part? Okay.
100%. Is it okay to give unconditionally, even though I'm selfishly giving because it'll make me feel better, even if I expect nothing else but that?
Yeah, why would you not? Like, if you're not doing things that make you feel good, like, that's still okay. The only reason to do anything is if it creates a positive impact for you. So, but if you give with the expectation that you're just try and manage your expectations, because again, if your moment of feel good is going to be based off of their reaction, again, you might be disappointed. You give your, I gave my daughter her first phone for Christmas, and she was like, cool, thanks. And I was like, oh man, I expected her to do backflips and jump through the ceiling. I had an expectation that was unmet because of an unrealistic thought that I had, right? So just give without expectation, and don't give expecting even a response.
Yeah, that's probably pretty smart. So we've talked about the IDA, but we didn't talk about your childhood, and I wonder if you could share a little bit about it, because I know it's shaped who you are.
Yeah. My childhood was rough. It was, both my parents are gone. My mom died about 8 years ago. My dad died 2 years before that, 10 years ago.
I didn't realize that.
So yeah, and it was, unfortunately, they passed away at a time that I still had a lot of resentments. I still held a lot of resentments against them for the childhood that I had. And not just the things that happened to me, but the things that I didn't get, the opportunities that I didn't get, right? I didn't get to play sports as much as I wanted. I didn't do this. I didn't get that. I had these resentments towards them for the things that I didn't get to do, or the things that I had to endure. I didn't learn till after they had both passed that those things that were so challenging and hard for me that I had resentments against them for were also the things that made me an absolute fucking savage. Resilient. I mean, and I say that with all humility. I am a savage in the sense that I can get kicked in the mouth over and over and over and over and still keep going. Because I had to endure so much shit as a kid, I built that resiliency that it's like I can run to a brick wall and I just keep going. I try and find a different way. So now I'm grateful for the childhood that I had because that's the only option that I have. I can either be grateful or be resentful. Resent doesn't help me. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help anyone that I ever come in contact with.
I can't imagine it helping anybody.
No, it doesn't. But
like truly, that's a poison.
For sure. But most people don't
you
realize that.
And everyone around you.
Yeah.
If you just harbor resentment.
Yeah, and it's crazy. A lot of times we're thankful. We show gratitude for the good things, right? Like I'm tall. I'm grateful for my dad because he was tall, so now I'm tall. But those good things, the bad things shape you as much as the good things. So if you're going to be grateful for the good things, you damn well better be grateful for the bad things as well, because those shape you as much as anything else. But to go back to your question, when I say it was a tough childhood, I'm going to open up a little bit more than I ever have before on any podcast. But I was obviously I grew up extremely poor, welfare, Medicaid. We ate good from the first to the fifth, and after that, it was feast or famine. I used to pick mold off of bread to make sandwiches. My fridge never had. For a week, the first week of the month, we had stuff, and then after that, we had. When
did you realize that there was this monthly cyclical cycle? Like, at what age were you like
very early, 7 or 8? Because it was like the food stamps would come on the first, and it was like, all right, it's time to go grocery shopping, and then I noticed that was the only time we went grocery shopping, because that's all we didn't have the discipline. My mom didn't have the discipline to stretch things out. So it was like Christmas every first. And then it was like, the Holocaust, the other 3 weeks of the month. So it was very, I would say 7, 8 years old. I understood the cyclical thing. I knew first of the month is coming, man. We're going to finally get to eat again. Because like I said, I used to pull, there was a lot of times where I would have to pull mold off of bread to make a sandwich, if we even had the bread, or cheese, or use condiments, use ketchup in place of mustard or mayo, or just piece things together as much as I could. And if that was all, then that's a lot of people deal with hunger. But I had to, both my parents were, unfortunately had their own demons. So they were both addicts. My mom was in and out of jail a lot during my childhood. My dad lived back east. I'd see my dad twice a year. And the two times I'd see him every year, we would make a hospital, or each one of those times we'd make a trip to the hospital because he would OD. I knew how to keep a person alive that was ODing by the time I was 9 years old. I knew how to bail a person out of jail by the time I was 10. Just things that no kid should have to endure, right?
No kid should have to endure.
But at the same time, that can be my tragedy, or that can be my triumph. Because again, I know how to endure. People's trauma is relative. I lose an arm, and that can be as traumatic to me as you stubbing a toe if you haven't experienced trauma, right? So it's all relative. But I'll tell you what, I'm a lot more resilient to the things that a lot of people aren't because of those. But going back to our earlier conversation, perspective is it. I can choose to have that framework of, man, my childhood was great because it turned me into a savage, because it made me resilient. Or my childhood was shit because it was so hard and I've got all these negative habits that I had to break. And that's another thing is I learned to break bad habits because I had bad habits to break from my childhood. A story that's always stuck with me that really kind of ties this all together is there's two, I think it was MIT, there was a big university that did a study on alcoholism, and they found these two twin brothers who had a abusive, just drunk as a father. One of them was a successful businessman. One of them was in jail, and they interviewed both. They went to the guy in jail and they said, "Hey, why do you feel like your life turned out the way it did?" The brother that was in jail was an alcoholic and had basically the same life as his dad. And he said, well, my dad was an alcoholic. Why wouldn't I be an alcoholic? They went to the other brother and said, hey, you're successful. You're not an alcoholic. Why aren't you an alcoholic? And he said, my father was an alcoholic. Why would I be an alcoholic? Essentially the same two people. They just had a different perspective, and they had completely different outcomes in life, because the one guy chose to use it as a crutch, or the reason that he needs to be an alcoholic. And the other guy used it as the reason why he could not be an alcoholic under any circumstance. So again, going back to the victim mentality, it's so much easier to say, man, I can be a drunk because that's what I learned. I could have grown up, and I did most of my life. It was, man, I'll never do this or I'll never do that because I didn't have opportunities and I didn't have a good upbringing. I didn't have that. But that was all bullshit. That was all excuses, Nick. That was me shucking responsibility because it is harder to be successful. Or sorry, it seems harder to be successful, but it's not. It is easier to be successful than it is to be poor. And I see this in a lot of my relatives. My relatives spend more time stealing from Peter to give to Paul. I can take $50 from the light bill this month to keep my water on, right? They spend so much time shuffling money around to just stay afloat that if they put that same energy into being successful and reading and creating a better future, it would be less effort than what they're already doing. But it's easy to say, oh man, I'm the victim. I'll never do that because of this, because then it's somebody else's responsibility, somebody else's fault. If you're not successful because of you, that's a hard pill to swallow.
You mentioned sharing something you never shared before. Was that part of what you just brought up?
I've alluded to it, but I've never really gone in depth as far as the severity of my upbringing. I haven't talked a lot about my mom being in jail, or like I said, knowing how to fill a tub full of ice and keep a person alive until the ambulance gets there when they're ODing on coke and heroin. That was those were overall small, in relevant small things overall that impacted but also created the man that you see before you. But the man that you see today is not the man that I was 5-7 years ago. This was a perspective shift that I had to make, because the outcome, if I didn't, was going to be the exact same life that I watched my parents live. Just because you come from somewhere doesn't mean that you have to stay there. Just because you were raised by a certain type of person doesn't mean that you have to be that same type of person. You just have to be willing to be courageous enough to try something different.
Well, because we're programmed. I was listening to this book, something the first 7 years of our life, like we really get programmed. And so after that, that's why awareness is so important, to look at what you're doing and realize, am I just doing this because this is how I've been programmed? Or am I going to choose to do something? And it's just an interesting thought of like, you had so much stacked against you. So having to fight the programming or be aware of it and then work on it is a very arduous task.
Yeah, it is. It is. But see, and that's what's relative. Was it arduous? Because what was the alternative going to be? Was me becoming an addict? Was me becoming my parents? Was that going to be more arduous than me choosing to do the hard work to not be? That's what people don't realize. Is it's harder to stay in the cycle than it is to get out of it. And it's a lot better to get out of it. But people don't face the hard shit because they think it's going to be hard, but your life is going to be a lot harder if you don't face that shit.
Forever and ever and ever, constantly, versus maybe a little bit of hard now.
Yep. A little discomfort now saves you from tragic discomfort down the road. And I use, I'll use health and wellness as an analogy. It's like, man, I hear a lot of people, well, I wish I had time to go to the gym. I wish I had the extra effort or the extra money, or I had this. Well, you're delaying, or you're negating the discomfort of going to the gym every day now. But when you become unhealthy and get diabetes and have to be in the hospital and have to deal with the health repercussions of you delaying the discomfort now, is it going to be more uncomfortable to have diabetes at 50 or to go to the gym a few days a week now? You know what I mean?
It may or may not be that simple, but I totally agree with you that if you don't have your health, what do you have? And if you don't like how much it costs now, wait till you get that bill.
But that's with anything.
Yeah.
With anything.
But those bills are real expensive later when it gets serious, right?
Yeah.
Versus, spending a little extra on the groceries or the gym or the personal trainer. Like, this shit ain't cheap, okay? I get it. But like, I hear this and I like, because we're in the automotive world, like, treat yourself like a high-end sports car if you can. I know a lot of people are just trying to struggle and survive out there, but like, treat put the fuel in, give it the amount of care you give that Ferrari that you're putting on Instagram. Like, your body is the temple.
There is no if you can.
I like my opinion. I like that. Yeah, this is my approach. I like Shad's approach.
You can make anything happen, especially now. Okay, the days of old are gone. The days of you having to come from a successful, like, it is easier to make money and be successful now than ever before. There is not any piece of information. There is not anything that you need to know about your business or how to build your business available through information, nothing, or through collaboration, or going back to the IDA. There's somebody, one of those 2,500 members has dealt with what you've dealt with in your shop, has overcome what you're dealing with, or the troubles that you're having. That's why I love that network, is you can call and say, hey man, I see you're kind of like me. Did you ever deal with this? Yeah, I did. This is how I overcame it. Boom, done. Now you just have to implement, right? But there is no if you can. To me, it's like, if you can't, then you are consciously making a choice to half-ass life, because anything is possible. And we've seen it over and over and over again. I'm a huge person on proof, right? You have to believe that something is capable, but most people think that they have to believe that they're capable of it, right? I don't believe that I have the skills to be a millionaire right now, so therefore I can't be a millionaire. Well, I may not have the skills right now, but I know this guy over here that I see that I read his books. He came from the same place as me, and he's a multimillionaire. So now I know it's possible. I just need to know the skills in order to do it. But you have to believe it, and there is reference, there is proof if you choose to find it. You can find somebody that was like you that's been massively successful no matter where you come from, including myself. I come from shit, and I know many people that come from very similar backgrounds that have been wildly successful. And now I know, okay, it's possible. So if it's going to be possible for me, it is up to me. I just have to do the work. I just have to gain the skills and the knowledge and actually implement them. So anything is possible. And you can do anything, in my opinion.
And I love too that you're not perfect either, right? Like,
no,
but it's like, I think we all want to hear the motivational guy talking and be like, well, as long as everything in their life is perfect, I can kind of buy in. It's like, the flesh is weak. We're all humans. We all make mistakes. We all fall short. But I think we can all lift each other up and inspire each other and help each other too, and do our best to like be there for others. So when you said the IDA is this like network, it was like, just like I said when I walked in here, people, growing up in school, you have kids and friends around you all the time. And I've just been struck by this work from home balance that I've had recently in the last couple of years since we started DIY Detail, where it's like, it's just a radical shift. Because before it was like, oh, I don't like my colleagues, or I can't get along with this person, or this person annoys me. Okay, yeah, all that stuff's going to come up. But like, I think being around people is something that I really took for granted.
Yeah.
Because we're wired for this.
Connection. Yeah.
Connection.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
We spent the first 9 months in another human's body. Like, we are tied symbiotically to others. Like, we learned it early, and then sometimes we forget it. And it's like, nope, we're supposed to be around other people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even though it's difficult.
Yeah, it is difficult. It is difficult, but you have. I'm glad you said that, because you have to. We have unrealistic expectations of the people around us, including ourselves, right?
You think so? Unrealistic?
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Most
even
of
ourselves?
Yes, absolutely. Because I have this expectation of I had this expectation of wanting to be perfect. I am far from perfect. I am a very flawed individual. I have done a lot of work, but I still have a lot of work to do. I will never be perfect. And if I ever feel like I am perfect, I have not pushed myself hard enough. I have basically become, what's the word I'm looking for? Stagnant or complacent, and feel perfect because I'm not getting pushback. If you're not getting pushback from multiple areas of your life, you are not stretching yourself far enough, right? You just have to lean just a little bit outside of that discomfort in order to grow. So you don't have to go, like I said, you don't have to you don't have to go to the gym and lift 1,000 pounds. You only have to go and lift 1 pound. And that boundary of discomfort opens up a little bit. And then you lift 2 and 3, and you're just, and I'm using the gym as an analogy, but you don't have to like do something wild. You just have to push past that discomfort a little bit, just a little bit every time. And then your capacity for discomfort gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And we ice baths, you know this firsthand. The first time you get in, it's like, you're lucky to get 10 seconds in there, right?
Are you still doing cold plunges?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. But the first time you go in, it's like, you get in, you're like, I'm going to die. I have to get out. The next time you go in, you're like, all right, I know I'm not going to die in 10 seconds. So now I'm going to go to 15. Okay. Well, I know I can last 15, and you just keep pushing that a little bit further and further until you're doing 5, 10, 15 minutes at a time. And you're like, dude, this is easy. Not easy, but it's, I can manage this.
10-minute ice bath sounds wild.
It is. I'm
good at like
wild.
3 minutes now.
3 minutes, but that's all you need.
Yeah, I've decided like I don't need to try to go 8, 9, 10. That part of me that always wants to like push the envelope is very real. But I don't know. Ice is a very real thing too. Like I just respect the cold, man. Like I'm just not sure about it all. Are you a cold exposure every day guy? Like
I try to. Bath or shower. Yeah. If I have time, if I have the bath set up in the winter, it's a lot easier. But during the summer, it's a pain in the butt to try and set that up every day.
Yeah.
But I try and do something every day, because when I start my day off with that level of physical discomfort, everything else just seems a little easier.
Yes.
People don't, and I use ice baths not even for the physical attributes. It is all mental for me. I do it because every day that I force myself to sit in that ice bath or in that cold shower for 3 minutes and just fight through it, when I'm in front of a customer and I have to fight back me wanting to tell them they're an idiot or you're wrong, you need to do it this way, I've mentally trained myself to just be able to stop, control my breathing, listen, and then address when the time is right. But a lot of that's come from the cold exposure. It doesn't have to be cold exposure. I know a lot of people don't like that, but find something that can help build your capacity for discomfort. I want to flip the script on you a little bit, because I don't think it's talked about enough. Your journey, you said if you can. I want to ask you how you feel about the transition, because I know you left a very lucrative career in something that you loved.
Not lucrative, you'd be surprised.
Well,
but the ceiling for me as a mid-30s guy, if I didn't have kids and I wanted to keep staying in the business and potentially go to a bigger market again, because I came from the Seattle market. I'd been in the Denver market, so Salt Lake was a smaller market. It was because we had another kid on the way.
Yeah.
So I came to Utah not to grow my career in TV news, which was my background as a reporter and then anchor. It was just to find a place to land. Complicated pregnancy. We weren't sure if baby or mom were going to be okay. Like, it was serious.
Yeah.
Very serious. Like, many visits to the ER, bleeding, like, what's going to happen? They were like doing x-rays or ultrasounds, and they kind of didn't, sounded placenta previa. They didn't really know what was going on. It was a terrifying time. So to think back and be grateful that we landed here, baby was okay. Like, how amazing is that? Penelope's 8 years old and just the best, full of life and spunk and challenges me. So anyway, but I don't know why we came here to begin with, but it wasn't to grow my career. So I think I was already, I don't know, I'm probably not answering your question, but I got here, I felt like I landed in here in this place that was home for me in Utah. And I took a lateral move down. I was like in Seattle in a bigger market, and I was reporting here. I think I was jaded and I was over the news business for many years, way before that even. And so I did this for way longer than I should have been. And I felt like there was more left for me to do in this life. Like, I was listening to Grant Cardone and the 10X rule. And I was like, I started looking at how to pitch someone on an interview for a story as a sales pitch. So I started to realize Grant says sales is in every facet of your life. So I'm like, I'm going to treat every facet of my life like sales, just trying to gamify life. Right. And try to figure out how I could better convert someone if I was trying to pitch them on an interview. And if I could convince them in a humane way to do the interview with me, I was like, what's in it for them? How could I make this a win-win? It didn't even necessarily make me more conversions, but I felt better about it. I was making it more interesting for me. I don't know. So the long story short of it is, like, I think I was pretty done with TV news for a while.
Which is fine. But when I say lucrative is relative to the person. Yeah. Like, you were making a good income. You were making a better income than a lot of people do at any point in their life. Okay. But you said you landed here. You took a step down. So at the time that you got here, you were probably like, man, is this right? Is this, am I making the right moves? This is tough. It's a step down. Yeah. But if you hadn't have made the decision that you made, you wouldn't be sitting right here today. I know. As an owner of DIY. It's wild. With a successful podcast and living an amazing life. Like, think of what you've done in the last few years. But and I bring that up because a lot of people don't appreciate the things that don't happen as much as they should. And what I mean by that is, if you had, made a different decision, if you had decided to stay there and stick it out and pursue your career in broadcasting, instead of taking a step back, you wouldn't be where you are at this exact time. Yeah, I mean, it was a step forward. The contract they offered me to stay on was a 2% raise. And then I was like, all right, here's my letter of resignation. And then a couple weeks later, they're like, they came back and they're like, we had to fight corporate on this. I mean, and it was like, this was really hard for me, but and it's like 5% raise. And I was like, and the DIY, salary that I was offered was like what I was making at the TV news station with no overtime. So I took a step down.
One thing I've never shared with anybody, I don't know if I feel, are you ready?
Yeah.
When we first started DIY Detail, and I tell my kids this so they know that their dad was willing to work hard, I was not making enough, right? And I realized that pretty shortly, like the overtime money that I was making at the TV station was a bigger deal than I thought. And I didn't know if I'd made the right decision. No one ever does.
Right.
So I was moonlighting as like a DoorDash Uber Eats driver.
Yeah.
Which was not a proud moment. Like you don't make as much as if you actually drive Uber or Lyft. Like the DoorDash, like delivering food is horrible money and it's just a horrible idea. But it was like, I remember on 2 days before Christmas, the first year of DIY, taking my kid with me to do DoorDash. I'm like, son, I'm not proud of this, but like I want to get you guys Christmas presents this year, and Christmas is this week. And the reason you're in this back seat with me at age 5, and I know you don't want to be here, it's because I want to get you Christmas presents, and I have to work for it. You know
why?
And
go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I just felt ashamed. I honestly felt ashamed.
Why? You said that wasn't
I
a proud
thought I was
moment.
like above that. You know what I mean? But like that. But I'm willing to work. I'm willing to do anything.
What prouder of a moment than to show your child that you are willing to do anything it takes to not only provide for them, but to chase your dream. You started DIY, you had a dream, you had a vision, and instead of saying, man, this isn't working, I'm closing up shop, I can go get another news anchor job, you put your ego to the side and you went and got a part-time job in order to see this thing through.
And it's not a very good job. I mean, I thought it was because it's work whenever you want. There was a $12 McDonald's order up like a snowy mountain road. And it was like, I wasn't even getting a tip. I just pressed yes when the ding came in. It was like 11 o'clock at night. I was surprised McDonald's was still open. And I almost slid off the damn road, dude. It was between Midway and Park City. And I was like, that was the moment when I realized, and you laugh. Like, have you ever been on a road where you're like, I'm not sure if I should brake or keep going or stop? Because either way, I don't know what's going to land me on the side of the mountain. Like, that's how scary it was. I was like, for a $12 McDonald's order. But I mean, I'm grateful, I'm grateful that I'm willing to do whatever it takes, but I don't want to have to do that again if I don't have to.
But if you do have to, you will. And that's the moral to the story is you have to be willing to put your ego aside, your fragile little ego. You have to be willing to put that aside. If you want big things in life, if you want to pursue your dreams, you have to put your little ego aside and do things that you may not be proud of in order to ultimately have the pride of owning your own business or having a successful podcast or whatever it is. We get too hung up on what other people, who's going to judge you? You're the only person judging you in that moment. Like me knowing what I know now, like I'm not gonna be like, oh my God, I can't believe he's a DoorDash driver. I'm like, dude, that's fucking awesome that you did that. That is heroic. That is so big that you were able to put your own personal needs aside and sacrifice your little bit of personal time in order to go and deliver food for other people to keep this dream alive.
Yeah.
But we think that, oh man, if people know that I'm a DoorDash driver, they're gonna judge me, or they're gonna think that's below me, or that's this, that, and the. You're the only person that matters. Your judgment of yourself is the only thing that matters.
That does take time to get there, though.
It does. To
not stop caring what other people think. I think it takes most of your life.
Oh, it
Many
never ends.
decades.
It never ends, but you
ends.
can get so much better at it, and it is one of the most impactful things that you can do. I'll tell you, 99.9% of the time you think other people are watching you, they're not. And in fact, they're thinking the exact same. Instead of they're not going, oh my God, looking at that idiot. They're thinking, oh my God, who's looking at me thinking, who's that idiot? They're thinking the exact same thing you are thinking. They're not thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves looking like an asshole.
Right.
But we hold ourselves back so much in fear of judgment of others. And almost every time those people judging us have no basis. Well, no human being has a basis to judge, and they're a human being, but they are not coming from a place of achievement in those moments, right? They're not like, hey, I'm better than that guy, and look at him. You'll never hear a billionaire talking shit about a millionaire, right? You hear millionaires talking shit about billionaires, but never vice versa. Hate, we've talked about this before. Hate always goes up. People hate up.
They do.
So people are judging you. If people are hating on you, it is simply because you have triggered something in them, some lack of or an insecurity in them. And instead of taking that personally, take it as admiration. That's what hate is it's secret admiration, because you've invoked an emotion in them that they're like, man, he's doing something I'm not doing, or man, I wish I could do that, or I wish I had the balls to do that. They're not hating because what you're doing is wrong. They're hating because they are not doing what you are doing in every single scenario.
Well, I think I was just ashamed of it too, is because like I knew every moment, DIY needed me too, right? And like I needed to be, I could always be creating more content, right? So in some ways it was a barrier to that early on, but it was like I didn't want to ask anyone for more money. I just wanted to like figure out how can I survive and then meet my obligations at the same time. So there was like shame too of like, am I hurting DIY by doing this? But I also need to survive, but I don't want to have to ask for more money because I'm not a little itch bay. Like I don't beg. Like I earn it. I don't tattle. Like I just get my job done, So I wanted to fulfill that obligation. And I also was like realizing that like I also had a detail business once. At one point I knew how to make extra money detailing cars, but I no longer had the equipment. And more importantly, because I did have some equipment, I did actually start off with a small garage space when we started DIY. I was like embarrassed to try to put myself out there and be like, I'm starting over again. So I didn't really talk about DIY. I didn't really talk about detailing. I just kind of like, I felt like I had to like go prove myself again to the world. So I don't know. I was going through a lot. I think looking back, being like, yeah, it was an easy transition. No, I was terrified.
Yeah.
It was a tough time.
You said something interesting there. You said, I didn't want to have to beg. And the reason why I bring this up is because men are terrible and notorious at this. Asking for your needs to be met is not begging. And I bring this up because we men shit the bed, especially in our personal relationships with our spouses, in this regard.
How so?
Well, instead of when you come home and you're like, man, I've had a rough day. I just need my wife to hug me. We walk in the door and your wife's doing laundry. She's taking care of kids. She's doing this and she doesn't rush over and hug you. And you're like, well, fuck, she's not meeting my needs. Did she know that you needed a hug? So if you walked in and were having a hard day and said, babe, I had a rough day. Can I have a hug? Do you think she's gonna be like, no, asshole, I've got to do this. She's gonna stop and give you a hug.
Women would love that. Yeah.
Women would love that.
Yeah.
But also if you had went to DIY and said, look, I want to do more content. I want to do this. I want to be there more. This is the struggle that I'm having. Would you like me to continue to do DoorDash, or would you want to give me a raise and have more opportunity for me to produce more content? Ask for your need to be met. What's the worst they're going to say is no, go do DoorDash and you're in the same exact spot. Or they're going to say,
I think early on that was part of the discussion is like, I asked for a certain salary and it was met and I was like, okay, cool. Like I can survive on that. I didn't want to go and I don't know. It was
you didn't want to admit you were wrong. Let's be real.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Ooh,
I get it.
How much of a guy thing is that?
That's it.
We don't want to admit we're wrong.
We're terrible at that. We are terrible at admitting that we would rather suffer than admit that we are wrong and say, dude, hey, I miscalculated this.
Yeah,
This is where I'm at. What do you want to do about it? Oh, well, Nick, we don't have any more money to do, so just keep doing DoorDash. Okay, done.
Right.
At a bare minimum, they're going to respect your admiration for coming and asking for your needs to be met. But this was
a very small amount of time, but it was very vivid to me because it was right at the beginning.
It was hard, man.
Yeah,
and that's why you remember. And we remember the hard times worse than we remember or easier than we remember the good times. But
I mean, how many people starting a business have stories of, I didn't sleep and I did it? Like, it's supposed to be hard, right? But hard is never like, hard's always hard.
It's hard temporarily.
Yep.
But is it still hard today? It's hard, but it's a different hard.
Yeah, it's a different hard. Yeah,
right.
I'm so grateful for everyone who's supported us, and we've grown a lot. And it's been a really like rewarding and amazing journey.
So the whole point to that was, people can't meet your needs unless they know what your needs are, and that includes yourself, right? If you're always lying to yourself and I don't need that, or I don't need that, I'm not that, like. Just be honest with yourself, be honest with your partner, be honest with your boss, be honest with everyone. Radical honesty is something I'm really, really practicing right now. But asking, one thing that's transformed my relationship is, it's something I'm still learning. I'm not perfect, but asking for my needs to be met. Babe, I need some love. Babe, hey, I need this, I need that. I had a rough day. When you ask for your needs to be met, you have a greater chance of having those needs met than expecting your partner or your boss or your employees to know what the hell you need, because they don't know. They know what they need. But we have to learn to put our ego aside, not worry about shame, and ask for our needs to be met. Because this is, dude, I'm huge on relationships. it kills me when I hear the statistics on marriage. Like it just kills me. It kills me. And I think a lot of it is conditioning, right? A lot of it is that it becomes more acceptable and to not follow through with marriage. And
all I know is we see people falling in love in pop culture all the time, but I don't see the modeling of a successful marriage post honeymoon.
right.
And that's what I'm fascinated by. And that's what I want to learn from is like seeing a successful marriage or family and having that modeled to me, I think would be so fascinating because I didn't grow up with it.
I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. The honeymoon phase is absolute bullshit. The honeymoon phase is bullshit. When you can make it through the honeymoon phase and make it through all the hard shit that's after the honeymoon phase, that's when the real relationship begins. And I know this from experience because myself and my wife, but also every other person that I know that's endured says the same thing. That honeymoon phase quickly fades and the hard work begins because you're no longer running on pure emotion. Now reality sets in and their imperfections come out. But their imperfections aren't their imperfections. Their imperfections are your imperfections. What your partner will do above anything is they will hold a mirror up to you of the things that you need to change because nobody can make you feel any kind of way. Your wife can't make you pissed off. Your wife can't nag you into being upset. She can present an opportunity for you to be upset, right? But you have to, something within you has to invoke that emotion in order for you to take it. So my point to that is I hate the honeymoon phase, and that's the whole reason why I brought that up. The honeymoon phase really begins when you almost wreck the relationship and then rebuild it. I'm 18 years into my relationship, and my relationship on every front is drastically better than the honeymoon phase where everything seemed to be easy. The communication, the intimacy, the connection, everything is 10 times better than it was in that first year when things felt seamless, effortless, right? So, but like with anything, the whole moral to this is put in the work to get the things that you want. DoorDash if you have to keep your business going. If you're in a detailing business and you're having a rough time, you can't detail in the middle of the night. Go run some orders in order to get a little bit more money to then run marketing or hire that employee or do the things that you need to. Stop expecting that the answer is going to show up on your doorstep and a magic customer is going to come and buy a $10,000 detail and save the day. It's not going to happen. So do what's necessary to keep the doors open until you figure this thing out. If this is your passion, and I'll tell you one thing I found about details above everything is
passion. Yeah, we got it, dude.
And
we're willing to work hard.
Yeah,
that's what I love about this industry.
Right.
Sorry, I interrupted you, but passion and work hard. Like we got that. We can do that.
But a lot of us aren't willing to put that pride aside and go get that DoorDash job. That's why that's why I bring that up is because that is so admirable, Nick. That is such a testament to who you are as a person.
I felt like I was
as
eating
a partner,
rocks, dude.
Dude, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Or whatever. Like I was not proud of that.
But DIY is where it is today in large part because of that, because of you eating rocks. Because the alternative, because at that time you weren't in a place where you could go and ask for your needs to be met. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, we hadn't come out with gold standard polish yet. And so we were just this new company. Everyone's like, yeah, we kind of know. We know Ivan, whatever. But like, we kind of know Nick and like this new company. And it was just kind of like, all right, we're not going to give you the time of day, And then we just had to like scrap and claw and work and just keep putting out educational videos and hope that we were gaining traction. We were growing slowly, but like we weren't profitable. Right. There wasn't extra money, right? It was like we were already like, there's a lot of debt accrued by our business partner just to start it. And he took on he's the one who went into debt or $100,000 or more, to like start DIY. I don't know what the full figures are. So that was part of me as a respect thing to him. Like my respect thing is like, I want to work my ass off for this company, but I would never like go as low as like saying, can I have some more money while we're doing it? That's what it was like. I was a respecting to him, even though it's like perverted the way I think about it, like perverted, not in the weird way, but just changing the meaning or the reason I did is like I didn't want to disrespect him, but really it probably was disrespectful to not be totally honest and just say, hey, right now my needs aren't fully met. Can we at least have this conversation?
Right.
Because it was so new. I gave up everything, my whole career to do this. I'm like, I knew how lucky I was. Like I have all this freedom and I get to work from home and I get to make videos about car cleaning full time. Like it was the dream. It just hadn't really been paying off yet. But I'm like, so I knew I could hang on. I knew I could hang. I knew I just needed to do a couple of things without making anybody else's problem to hang on. But yeah, it was emotionally a complicated time for sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But you ate rocks and you are today. And that conversation, that conversation could have went one of two ways. He says there's no money to be had, or there is, and either way, you have the answer that you need. And that's fine. You decided not to do that. That's okay. But you did do whatever you needed to do to keep things moving, to keep yourself afloat. Because it would have been very easy for you to say, I just can't do this. I got to go back. I'm sure you could have got an anchor job very, very quickly here or somewhere else if you needed to.
Yeah.
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 But you chose not to. You chose to fight through and put your ego aside, which is extremely admirable. And I just challenge you to change your framework about it being shameful.
Yeah.
Because that is fucking awesome. That is badass. That is
Appreciate
something that most people wouldn't do. Most people wouldn't swallow that pride and go get that less than job to keep things going. But that's why most people don't end up in great situations, because they're not willing to fight through the hard things. They're not willing to put their ego aside. So I just want you to know that I see you, that I see that, and that is amazing and incredibly impressive. So
I think maybe if I can speak to everybody, it's just like, I think we all have this, you do what you have to do mentality, especially if you've run a business or as a detailer or as a parent. Like, there's just a time where like you got to do what you got to do. Whether it's getting up in the middle of the night because your kid's crying and you don't want to, but you do it anyway, right? There's there's certain things about being an adult where you just do what you got to do. And to me, this is what it felt like. I was like, this is what I got to do.
But doing what you has to people, and I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. I think people,
lay it on me. Come on.
They frame it in a different way. I have to do what I have to do, and that means that I have to sacrifice. I have to not pay bills, or I have to do this instead of doing the hard thing of putting their ego aside, swallowing that shame, and going and doing the less than job. Most people wouldn't choose to do that.
Actually, you're right. I know some friends who have struggled financially and they don't get
lots of people.
Jobs.
I see this in the detail.
And they have cars where they could easily DoorDash and make $50 for a night, and it's not great. Maybe it's $100.
Right.
It ain't great money.
It's money though.
It's money.
It's enough to keep the doors open. It's like I said, $50 in advertising that may bring in one customer is a hell of a lot better than $0 that doesn't have the potential of bringing any customers in.
And I was tired when I was doing it. I wasn't like, I have all this energy, let me do it now. I was like, I didn't want to do it.
No.
But yeah. Although it did give me a time to like listen to podcasts and like work on myself and get inspired.
Dude, it blows me away how much window time a lot of detailers have. And instead of listening to things like this or educational podcasts, or they just do nothing, especially mobile detailers. You can get an MBA in information in a couple years with podcasts and audio books and recorded information with the time you have behind the windshield. But instead, it's a lot easier to listen to music or play on your phone or dick around.
Maybe we should start ending every podcast. I just thought about this. I'm workshopping it live with like a book recommendation, like a book that changed your life, or a book that you think everyone should read. Or
even a podcast. A podcaster. Yeah, I think that's a great idea, man.
What you got for me?
As a Man Thinketh. If you are a human being and you have not read As a Man Thinketh, you are missing a lot of very easy information. As a Man Thinketh I didn't read that till about 10 years ago, and it put so many of previous books that I'd read together. The whole premise is you have complete power over everything, and it all starts with your thought. It all starts with perspective and your how you choose to think. How you react and how you choose to think is completely up to you. One of the only things you have control of. So As a Man Thinketh, if you haven't read it, go get it. But get the expanded version. There's two versions. There's As a Man Thinketh, and then there's one that's As a Man Thinketh and From Poverty to Power, which is the second book. Total, it's like 100 pages total. It's a super easy read. It's like $9 on Amazon. It is the foundation of everything that I am as a human being. It was life-changing, and it was very, very easy. There's a lot more books that are a lot more granular and a lot more complex. That is the basis.
So get the expanded version or don't get the expanded version?
Get it. As a Man Thinketh and Poverty to Power in one book. Like I said, it's $9 on Amazon. Get it, read it. Reread it. I reread it every single year. I've read it 9 times.
Bro, I need to get that book. I need to get one of these dream catchers. What are they called again?
Remarkable.
Remarkables. We'll start there. I like Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. Have you read it?
Oh,
or
yeah,
heard of it?
Yeah.
It's
Great
good
book.
stuff.
Yep.
It's good stuff. Yeah.
It is the enemy.
I don't read as many books as you do, but I'd like to. Again, as a kid, I was this voracious reader, and there's always a reason why it can't happen today. And I find myself feeling called to get back to reading. Just because.
Just set a time. Set a time every day. I read it at the exact same time every day. I have an alarm that goes off. I stop whatever I'm doing and I read.
What time?
10 o'clock.
At night?
In the morning.
Really?
Yep. I get to work. I get settled. I put out all the fires that I need to. Right about then, I'm usually sitting down I'm either sitting down to or I'm just finishing my breakfast. My alarm goes off. I read my 10 pages. If I get done with things, if I'm having a good morning and have a little bit of extra time, I'll read a little bit more. I read my 10 pages. I fill out my notes if I have them, and then I go.
So you don't put it off to the end of the day where you might be tired and you might find a reason not to do it. Because that's when I do it. It's like the nighttime read hasn't happened in a month.
You'll always find something else that's more important.
Yeah.
You have to schedule those things. You have to improvement, reading, improvement, personal development. You have to schedule. It has to be set in stone, whether it's every day or every week or whatever it is. 10 pages a day is way more impactful than reading 100 pages on a Saturday. Even though it's more pages, you will learn more because you're creating a habit and you'll retain more information. You read 100 pages, you're going to remember 5 pages. You read 10 pages, you'll remember 5 pages. So make it a habit. Thank you.
Hey, Shad Stoker, we appreciate you, sir. That's the sound effect for the Nick at Night podcast. And we're going to end it there, sir.
Appreciate you, man.
Thanks for coming on, brother.
Thank you.